video, and it looked like Alyssa Thomas will be getting fined for doing this in Indian.
You cannot be there chirping with fans the whole game. You cannot be allegedly telling fans Dawana chose to join a real battle.
We all expected this. I even called it out before the game in my live. But somehow, booing Dawana Bonner has become...
The WNBA just witnessed one of the most hypocritical, cowardly displays of unprofessionalism we've seen in years, as the so-called veteran leader who spent an entire game chirping at Indiana Fever fans has officially run and hid like a scared child when it came time to face the media and answer for her actions.
So Alyssa Thomas had all the smoke for the Fever fans. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, it wasn't just like just normal smoke. It wasn't just normal beef. It was what people from the country would call Dublin. She had the big smoke. Like, she absolutely had all the beef for. She, let the fans hear it, all of this stuff. Satu there, telling the fans to keep up the booze. And what did they do? They lost. And what did Alyssa do?
This is the story of a player who thought she could talk all the trash in the world, threaten fans, and storm around like she owned the place, only to discover that real accountability, actual professional responsibility, requires you to show up when the cameras are rolling and the questions get tough.
Supposed to be a celebration right now in the WNBA dump, but for some reason, and this should come as a surprise to no one, for some reason, WNBA players, they're just not in a joyous mood. They're not in the mood to express their appreciation, their gratitude to the people who gave them something worth celebrating. Instead of showing their appreciation, these bitter, entitled, insufferable players, they continue to engage in a war with their own.
When Alyssa Thomas and the Phoenix Mercury rolled into Indianapolis on that heated Wednesday night, she thought she was walking into enemy territory where she could play the villain and bask in the chaos. What she found instead was a fan base that had every right to express their displeasure with Dawana Bonner, and a league that wasn't going to tolerate her tantrum when the spotlight got too bright.
Dawana Bonner, first time coming back to Indianapolis after pretty much quitting the team. And I'm sticking to my guns saying that she quit the team because in my eyes, that's definitely what she did. Now, she went on record and stated that the role that she had possibly wasn't good enough for her. The fit just wasn't working. But at the end of the day, all of it points to the arrows of what? Quitting the basketball team. There's no way to justify it.
The writing was on the wall from the opening tip, but Thomas was too busy running her mouth to read it. She spent the entire game jawing at fans, gesturing at the crowd like some kind of playground bully, and reportedly telling supporters that Bonner came to play for a real team. Real team? Let's talk about what's real, Alyssa.
Where basically you can see Alyssa Thomas going back and forth with a fan, man. I mean, she just, I don't know if she just can't ignore anybody that's just coming at her, you know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure it's not anything racist or anything like that. I just think they get under her skin. they just get under her skin. And maybe since her first incident, whatever the case may be, she just didn't like it. So after that, she just can't stand any other female fan base.
So what did the WNBA do? They made the obvious decision any competent league would make. They fined Thomas and the Mercury for breaking the most basic rule of professional sports, showing up to face the music when your game is over.
2025 WNBA media access policy states no later than 10 minutes following the game, each head coach and 2 players, leading scorer and key contributor per team, be available in separate press conference room for in-person Zoom meetings. AT and the Mercury will likely be fined because they chose to break the rule. It's looking like Alyssa Thomas and the Phoenix Mercury are going to be fined because she just said nah. She just said nah.
If you are enjoying, please subscribe. The media availability rule violation exposed everything Alyssa Thomas isn't. When Thomas had her opportunity to explain herself, defend her actions, and show some actual leadership after a dominant individual performance, she didn't waste a single second. She disappeared. She vanished faster than her team's championship hopes, leaving her coach and teammates to clean up the mess she created. No later than 10 minutes following the game, each head coach and 2 players, the leading scorer and a key contributor, must be available in separate press conference rooms for in-person and Zoom media. This isn't a suggestion, it's not optional, and it's certainly not something you get to ignore because your feelings are hurt.
We seen Alyssa Thomas jawing at it with fans, kind of, making a complete fool of herself, and now she's finna be getting fined because she refused to.
Thomas's disappearing act is the perfect contrast to what real professionalism looks like. Here's a player who spent 4 quarters talking trash to fans, telling them her partner joined a real basketball team, and gesturing for them to meet her after the game. But when the actual after-game responsibilities came calling, suddenly she was nowhere to be found. The fans immediately embraced Thomas's hostility because they could see the difference. Meanwhile, Coach Nate Tibbetts and Kalia Copper showed up to face questions like actual professionals, while their supposed leader hid in the locker room like a child who broke something and doesn't want to get in trouble.
Now, this is a game of sport where 2 teams are going against each other, right? 2 rivals, 2 fan bases, right, are going against each other. You are allowed to be talked about, all right? You are allowed to be talked about as long as they are keeping it within the game and, not really attacking anything personal or talking about family members or, you know what crosses the line, right? Y'all know what crosses.
Let's be absolutely clear about what happened in Indianapolis and why the booing was not only justified, but completely normal. DeWanna Bonner signed with the Indiana Fever in February with great fanfare, promising to be a veteran leader who would help guide Caitlin Clark and the young Fever roster to new heights. Instead, she lasted exactly 9 games before quitting on the team. 9 games. That's not even a quarter of the season. Bonner averaged a pathetic 7.1 points and 3.8 rebounds, the lowest marks of her entire career, while shooting poorly and contributing nothing to the team's chemistry. They attempted to find a trade partner, they gave her time off, they did everything possible to make the situation work. But Bonner had already checked out mentally, and when Indiana couldn't find a suitable trade because of her massive $200,000 contract in a league with a hard salary cap, she forced their hand and got herself released.
After 3 games in a starting role, Bonner was moved to the bench in favor of shooting guard Lexi Hull, and 6 games later, she was done with the Fever. The Fever originally cited personal reasons for her absence, but what I learned later, again from multiple sources, was that the team was actually actively shopping her on the...
Now here comes Alyssa Thomas, acting like Indiana fans are somehow wrong for booing a player who quit on their team after 9 games. Acting like there's something inappropriate about fans expressing their displeasure with someone who took their money, wasted their time, and showed zero commitment to their organization. This is where Thomas and the rest of these WNBA players show just how unprepared they are for the attention their league is finally getting. Booing is normal in sports. It's been happening for decades in every major professional sport in America. When players leave teams under bad circumstances, when they underperform, when they quit on organizations. Fans boo. That's not disrespect. That's not hatred. That's sports. Do NBA fans get criticized for booing Kevin Durant when he returns to Oklahoma City? Do NFL fans get called out for booing players who demand trades? Do baseball fans get lectured for expressing displeasure with underperforming players? Of course not. But somehow, when WNBA players face the same level of scrutiny and fan reaction that comes with being professional athletes, suddenly it's a problem. Thomas spent that entire game telling fans that Bonner came to play for a real team. As if the Indiana Fever, a franchise that just handed her team a loss despite missing their superstar player, isn't real enough. The irony is overwhelming. The Fever, even without Caitlin Clark, dominated the Mercury 107-101. If Phoenix is such a real team, why couldn't they beat a shorthanded Indiana squad on their home court?
I boo people for less. I boo people for way less. Like if somebody played for my team, my favorite team, and they left after 9 to 10 games, wasn't a good fit. I'm sure she dealt with some shit. I'd feel the type of way her coming back into my house. That's just fandom, okay? So, again, open to constructive feedback. I think that's sports, man. I'm going to be booing people all the time. I love it. Boo. I love.
After all that tough talk, after all that gesturing at fans, after spending the entire game acting like she was some kind of enforcer, Thomas got her chance to explain herself and defend her actions. The press conference was set up, the cameras were rolling, the reporters were waiting, and she was nowhere to be found. The league's response was swift and appropriate. According to multiple reports, both Thomas and the Mercury organization are facing fines for violating the media availability rule. This isn't the first time the WNBA has had to discipline players and teams for this exact violation. The New York Liberty got slapped with a $25,000 fine, and 3 of their players were fined $2,000 each for declining media interviews after a finals loss. The precedent is clear. You can't have all the smoke during the game and then hide when it's time to face the consequences. You can't spend 4 quarters talking trash to fans and then refuse to explain your actions to the media. You can't act like a tough enforcer on the court and then disappear like a coward when accountability comes calling.
Now, I believe Angel Reese did this last year, too, after the Indiana Fever game. She had refused to talk to the media for whatever reason, but it seemed like this is what they do in this league. Like, when things don't go their way, they just refuse to talk to the media, which is so freaking weird to me. So, this was released today, and it stated, Alyssa Thomas provoked last night that she's the lamest of lames. All that is talking and then ducks the media presser. That's exactly what she...
What makes Thomas's behavior even more embarrassing is the contrast with how other players have handled similar situations. Caitlin Clark gets knocked down, fouled hard, and targeted by opponents every single game. Yet she shows up to every post-game press conference with class and professionalism. She answers every question, takes responsibility for her play, and never makes excuses or hides from the media. DeWanna Bonner, for all her faults in Indianapolis, at least showed up and contributed 4 pathetic points and 1 rebound in 21 minutes. She couldn't handle the pressure of a simple post-game interview. This entire episode perfectly illustrates why so many WNBA players aren't ready for the level of attention their league is finally receiving. For years, these players operated in relative obscurity, dealing with friendly local media and softball questions from reporters who were just happy to have access. Now that the league has real eyeballs, real scrutiny, and real fan engagement, they're completely unprepared for what comes with being actual professional athletes.
Every time something positive happens to this dump of a league, they spoil the celebration. And the WNBA continues to prove why they are not ready for prime time. Caitlin Clark enters the league, and literally overnight, the WNBA is pushed into the mainstream. When you go from complete anonymity to mainstream exposure and you're not ready, the problems of your league will be exposed and magnified. All of your warts will be uncovered. When you're not used to being recognized, when you're not used to being criticized, and all of a sudden you're dealing with both on a daily basis, that can lead to frustration.
Booing is part of sports. Fan criticism is part of sports. Media accountability is part of sports. If you can't handle fans expressing displeasure with a player who quit on their team after 9 games, then you're not ready for the big leagues. If you can't handle reporters asking you about your on-court behavior and interactions with fans, then you're not ready for professional athletics. The Indiana Fever fans did absolutely nothing wrong by booing DeWanna Bonner. They paid their money, they supported their team, and they expressed their disappointment with a player who took their investment and threw it away after 9 games. That's not racism, that's not inappropriate, that's being a fan. Then, when given the opportunity to explain her perspective and show some accountability, she ran and hid like a child. The fine that Thomas and the Mercury are facing is instant karma at its finest. You can't spend an entire game acting tough, talking trash, and threatening fans, then disappear when it's time to face the consequences. You can't demand respect as a professional athlete while refusing to fulfill the most basic professional obligations.
Like the booing and everything, DeWanna brought that on herself. Let's be completely real. Even Nate Tibbetts was just like, well, yeah, this is... Their coach was even like, well, yeah, this is sports. This is sports. And
this situation also highlights the broader problem with how WNBA players view fan criticism. They want all the benefits of increased attention, higher salaries, and mainstream coverage, but they don't want to deal with the scrutiny that comes with it. They want fans to show up, buy tickets, and cheer, but only if those fans never express any negative opinions or hold players accountable for their actions. The reality is that the WNBA is finally getting the attention it has always claimed to want. But with that attention comes real fan investment, real emotional stakes, and real consequences for poor performance or unprofessional behavior. Players like Thomas can either adapt to this new reality and conduct themselves like the professional athletes they claim to be, or they can continue to embarrass themselves and their league with childish tantrums and cowardly disappearing acts.
There is no denying the fact. WNBA players are frustrated. Hell, this league has been filled with whiners and complainers for the last 30 years. For 28 of those years, no one was paying attention. Now, the bitterness has been magnified. They're complaining about their minimum wage salaries. They're complaining about the media coverage. They're complaining about criticism. Instead of venting about these complaints privately, WNBA players, they choose to do it publicly. And who is the number one target of their frustration?
The choice is theirs, but the consequences are clear. The WNBA has shown it will fine players and teams who violate basic professional standards. Fans have shown they will hold players accountable for their actions and their commitment to their teams. And the media has shown they will ask the hard questions that come with real coverage of professional sports. Alyssa Thomas thought she could have all the smoke without facing any of the fire. She was wrong, and now she's paying the price, literally. That's not injustice, that's not unfair treatment, that's instant karma for someone who forgot that being a professional athlete means being professional even when the cameras are rolling and the questions get tough. The WNBA players wanted mainstream attention, and now they have it. Welcome to the big leagues, where actions have consequences and hiding isn't an option.